kshetra known as Ahovalam. Ahovalam is maybe 6 hours from Tirupati. It's in the hills, and it's the only place in the world that has the 9 different forms of Lord Narsimhadev in his powerful form of half man and half lion. There are 9 temples, and actually when we reached there we found that it was really an amazing place, because all these 9 temples are in the forest, and it is an actual forest, and it's all set in the hills. So the first 4 or 5 temples are reachable by most people. The next 4 becomes more difficult because you climb up, and as you climb the mountain, some parts you have stairs, some parts are just rocks and stones, and you need to really have faith in this great form of the Lord that saved Prahlad Maharaj. And then after a long winding journey and traveling up the hills and the mountain for about 4 or 5 hours, then you reach the one which is considered the last kshetra of that whole Narsimhadev temples. It's known as Jwala Narsimha. It's the form of the Lord at the point when he actually tore Hiranyakashipu apart and took out the intestines and put it as a garland on his head. The priest there actually told us why Narsimhadev actually took the garland and put it on his head. Because he said that actually Hiranyakashipu was a demon, we all know that. He was very envious of his son Prahlad, didn't like the fact that Prahlad Maharaj was a devotee of Vishnu, and for him Vishnu was an eternal enemy. But the thing that many people don't realize is that Hiranyakashipu was very well learned in the Vedas. And he was actually a very learned person, very wise. He meditated for a long, long time, and he acquired great knowledge. When his brother Hiranyaksha, you may remember that he had a brother who was elder to him, but he was killed by the form of Lord Varaha, the form of the half man, half boar. The Lord came in the form of the boar, and he vanquished Hiranyaksha because Hiranyaksha was trying to steal Bhumi Devi. So at that time, after Hiranyaksha passes from this world, his mother, the mother of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, who was Diti, she was very distraught because she had lost someone very dear. And Hiranyakashipu then talks to her in Bhagavatam. It's an entire chapter. Very seldom you have scriptures where demons are giving us great understanding of spiritual knowledge. But he's one of those rare ones, Hiranyakashipu. And he says something very interesting to his mother, which I think is very helpful for us because we're coming to the end of the year. It's a good time to reflect on where we are and who we are. And he says, "My dear mother, I know it is very painful to have lost someone who is dear to you. But you must remember one thing, that in this world, we are all just like people who come together in a restaurant." He actually used the word restaurant, or an eating place. He says, those who come to a restaurant, they come there actually to have a meal. Nobody is actually coming there to make friends. The actual purpose is to eat something, fill themselves up. So when visitors in a restaurant meet each other, they are friendly with each other, they spend time with each other for a while. But after a while, when their meal is finished, they know naturally that they have to move out of the restaurant and they have to go about their own things. The second example he gives is, just like sometimes logs in an ocean, they meet. And for a while when they meet, it appears like there's a space where someone can stand on that. But it's a fallacy, because sooner or later, by the force of the water, the logs have to move away again. So then he says, "My dear mother, in this world, all of us have come together by his arrangement, and all of us must disperse again by his arrangement. No matter how much we want to be with those whom we love, eventually birth, death, old age and disease, they're always there. And either they will be forever taken away from us, or they can be taken away from us for a long time. So Hiranyakashipu is very powerful. He's demonic. He did not believe in Vishnu. But see the wisdom. But unfortunately, with all the wisdom, he could not practically put it into practice. Because when the time came when his son became a devotee of Vishnu, and when the time came when his son told him, "My dear father, you may be very powerful, but everyone who is powerful must also die," he could not accept it. And yet he spoke an entire chapter telling his mother, "Mother, don't worry, body is not permanent." But when it came to him, it was very difficult. So one thing we should realize is, it is one thing to talk about something theoretically. The real test is when we have to face it. You and I can speak philosophy till the cows come home, as they say. But ultimately, to test philosophy, we have to practice it. Hiranyakashipu did not practice it. If he had practiced it, then he would know how relishable it is, or how powerful is the science of devotional service. So that was the difficulty that Hiranyakashipu had. So Hiranyakashipu's whole body was filled with knowledge, and his intestines were also filled with knowledge. So when the Lord saw that when the Lord tore him up, his intestines were falling. But the Lord always respects spiritual knowledge. And therefore he picked up the so-called intestines because they had been touched by the words of the Vedas. And he then put them on himself so that they would not touch the ground. Normally we do not put holy scriptures on the floor because it is considered inauspicious. So that is the reason why Shastras tell us the Lord actually put the garland of intestines around his neck. It is a very important message that in order for us to understand or even begin to practice spiritual life, some knowledge is necessary. That's why the Bhagavad Gita is there, that's why Bhagavatam is there, that is why the Quran and all these scriptures are there. The more we read, it's very important, but then the next stage is after reading, we have to test it. We must test it. In the Panchatantra, which is also a very famous, tales of wisdom, we have a nice point that's given in this area. There's a vast difference, the Bhagavad Gita says, between intelligence, which is material, and intelligence, which is considered to be transcendental. I'm going to hand out a sheet of paper that I wanted you all to take back.